Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. I want to get people updated here because obviously, look, the story probably of the tournament, even still now at 10:30 Eastern time on Sunday, it remains the Kentucky Wildcats. Do you know that with the NCAA tournament, we are now basically at the Elite Eight? Assuming Houston wins, all four number one seeds will have advanced. All four number two seeds will advance. Two of the 4-3 seeds will advance. The only ones that didn't were Baylor and the University of Kentucky. The only top three seed that got upset in the opening round was Kentucky. And so we talked about it on Thursday. I'm not going to go through what happened on Thursday. You know that. But what I found interesting was this, was that I woke up on Friday and Calipari was the big news and the big story and the big this and the big that. And then something interesting happened. The game started, Florida Atlantic loses to Northwestern, San Diego State beats UAB, whatever. And the Calipari story starts to go away. And it was funny because I thought by probably about, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night on Friday, it kind of hit me. I was like, that was such a big story in the moment. And I kind of feel like there's really not going to be anything that's going to happen. Like, we're just going to go on with the tournament. We're going to forget about this. And then in like a month, something is going to happen at Kentucky. And we're going to be like, oh, crap, Calipari's still the head coach. Remember when they lost to Oakland? Remember how embarrassing that was? And so I bring it up because it felt to me like nothing was going to happen. Then I woke up on Saturday to a very cryptic tweet, from my buddy Matt Jones, Kentucky Sports Radio. Producer Matt flashed that tweet on the screen for everybody to see. Matt Jones tweeted out, I want to say it was about noon Eastern on Saturday. You can see it here. Here is the UK basketball situation as it stands right now. The decision is all in Mitch Barnhart's hands. Mitch Barnhart is the AD. I get the sense that if he decides he wants to move on, the money will be there for reasons Andy Staples described in his video yesterday. I'll explain that momentarily. There is a sense of nervousness with everyone around the program because no one is really sure where Barnhart's mind is right now. I am told the university leadership is supportive of whatever he decides. I think we know something by Monday, if not before. All right, so it is obviously, as of right now, it is 10:30 Eastern time on Sunday. Unless I've missed something in the last 5 minutes, we are probably not going to know something by Monday. But to reference Matt's tweet, so first of all, what Matt's tweet is basically saying is this, is that I think we all came out of Thursday sitting there saying, that loss was really bad, but there's no, like Kentucky would owe John Calipari $33 million in buyout money, and there is no way any school is going to pay that for a head coach. Plus, of course, you got to pay out the assistants. You got to pay out, a new head coach. You're obviously going to have to pay. If it's a sitting head coach, you're going to have to pay his buyout. And so I think we all thought that Kentucky was just going to come back and it was going to be business as usual. Well, what Matt's tweet basically said was two things. Was one, the money isn't as big of an issue as we thought. And he referenced an Andy Staples video, okay? And in the Andy Staples video, Andy Staples from On3 actually talked a lot about what we have talked about on this show over probably the last, 4 to 5 weeks, right? Is that everyone gets infatuated with buyout money, and understandably so, but rarely is there a situation where when we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, now if it's 2 million, 5 million, whatever, that's a different story. But when a coach is owed tens of millions of dollars, very rarely does it all have to be paid out if you fire him the day that he gets fired. I've referenced Jimbo Fisher a bunch, right? Everybody said you can't fire Jimbo Fisher, $76 million on the buyout. And then all of a sudden you start to learn about the Jimbo Fisher buyout and you realize that yes, there is a lump sum of 10 million or 15 million or whatever, but then the rest of Jimbo Fisher's contract can be paid out over like a 10-year period, 4 million a year. And while you don't want to pay out, 4 million a year for the next 10 years, it isn't writing a check for 76 million. And so I bring it up because obviously if Calipari is not owed $33 million right up front,
that completely changes the conversation about what is realistic and what isn't in terms of firing him. And so then the question becomes, okay, so John Calipari, let's just assume money isn't an issue. Could he actually be let go? And I'll be honest, I spent a lot of time on the phone with a lot of different people this weekend. I really, as of 10:30, don't know what Kentucky's going to do. Because on the one hand, listen, it's a lot of money. On the other hand, it's obvious that you can't keep going on the way that you have, okay? You lose to Oakland. This a couple years after you lose to St. Peter's. So we are talking about two of the three worst losses in NCAA tournament history for Kentucky in a 3-year span in the John Calipari era. What I will be interested in, and I expect and I hear that the plan is for Mitch Barnhart to meet with John Calipari probably on Monday. I guess my question is as follows. What does John Calipari, we talked about this a little bit on Thursday, what does he actually sell to his AD about the future of this program? Because one thing that we've talked about, I think we were ahead of this on Thursday and Friday, every single thing that John Calipari can promise that this is going to change, he's already done it. Remember, after the 2021 season, they missed the NCAA tournament. What happens? He says, we're going to shake up the coaching staff. He does that. Then they go old with transfers. Then the transfers don't work. They go young with the freshmen this year, and it's all resulting in the same thing over and over. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I think that everyone, except maybe John Calipari, is at their wits' end. I will tell you, I heard from so many Kentucky fans this weekend, DMs, Instagram, Twitter, text messages for those who have my phone. And I will tell you, I think even the biggest Calipari supporters are done, are over it. Basically said, we're giving him this year. We got the freshman. He wants the freshman. He's going to bet on the freshman. And it didn't work out. And they just said, look, we're done. We want to see him go old. He went old. We want to see him go young. He went young. We want to see him change the offense. He changed the offense. And it's all resulting in the same thing, NCAA tournament losses. And so one, I think what's interesting, is there something John Calipari can sell to his administration about returning and why it makes sense? Beyond that, I think here's the interesting part. The rumors that came out of Kentucky this weekend are that the administration is going to make demands of him. And that's where it gets interesting. I've heard different stuff. It's hard to know what is true, okay? It is tight-lipped out of there. I don't think as of 10:30 Eastern, again, unless something is broken in the last 10 minutes, I don't think that Mitch Barnhart has made a decision at Kentucky, okay? I don't think that anything is finalized. But what I have heard is that he is going to make demands of that program. Maybe recruiting, maybe going less with the freshman model, maybe saying everybody in college basketball is getting older. We have to get older with them. Maybe there will be demands of the coaching staff being changed. Obviously, when the defense was as bad as it was this year, is there a defensive specialist that you can bring in? I don't know. But these are all things that are being asked, all things that are being questioned. And I guess that's what it comes down to for me, is when you look at this situation, what is going to be asked of John Calipari, and is he going to be willing to do it? Because John Calipari, he's an old guy and he's a stubborn guy, and he has largely done things the way that he has wanted. And what I will say is I'll defend Cal a little bit on two things. One, I don't think an AD should be telling a coach, and I'm not saying this is 100% what has happened, but it sounds like this is where it's going. I don't think an AD should be telling a head coach, this is how you run your program. These are the players that you recruit. This is the type of team that I want to see. Mitch Barnhart is an administrator. He raises money. He sits in on meetings. He understands media rights. He doesn't understand how to put together a basketball team. The other thing I keep going back to, everybody's criticizing the freshman model. The freshman model worked this year. Kentucky was the number 2 seed in the toughest SEC that we have ever seen. And so they, by the way, beat Tennessee, who's in the Sweet 16, beat Alabama late in the year, who's in the Sweet 16, beat Auburn, who was the hottest team in the SEC to end the season. So I don't have a problem with the roster construction, but to me, it's clear that something is being lost in translation. And so that is the interesting part to me. Is there something the AD is going to demand? I don't think the AD should be doing that. And then is John Calipari going to listen? That's the other part that I think is equally as interesting. Because to me, I don't know if either one works in this current situation. And then at that point, it becomes, does John Calipari want to move on? Does he want to look for another job? I've seen a lot of people, Jeff Goodman said he's not going to retire. I just can't. First of all, I don't know how many even jobs are going to be open at this point. I guess Louisville's still open. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, Michigan's not open. Ohio State's not open. West Virginia's not open. Where's he going to go coach? Florida Atlantic? Like, it's not going to happen. And so I am curious if they can come to some sort of compromise where they meet in the middle, but those two guys do not get along, and I don't think that is going to happen. And so I don't know what to expect. I could really, as of, again, 10:35 on Sunday night, I could see it going either way. I don't know what is realistic and what isn't at this point. Because on the one hand, I can't see it coming back the way that it was. On the other, I can't see Mitch Barnhart saying, you run it the way you want. And I can't see Calipari letting him look him in the eye and say, okay, I'm going to do it your way. I can't see Calipari acquiescing to his AD. And so to me, I really don't know. The one thing I have been thinking about a lot over the course of, the last day or so, what I do wonder, was this loss so shocking that maybe what the AD says is this: come back one more year, do it your way. And Kentucky fans don't want to hear that right now. But what I think has happened is this loss was so surprising. And I know it shouldn't be because you just lost to St. Peter's 2 years ago. But I don't think Mitch Barnhart woke up Thursday expecting to lose and expecting to have to raise a crap ton of money to buy out whatever John Calipari is owed and to pay a new head coach. And so because of that, I wonder if he says, you know what, come back one more year. Let's see if we can figure it out. Hopefully you get some of the guys from this year's team to come back as well. And then from there, maybe quietly behind the scenes, Mitch Barnhart starts raising that money, starts making those phone calls, starts asking those questions. Okay, who's actually interested? Is Scott Drew interested? What's it going to take? How much guaranteed money? Because the one thing you don't want to do is fire John Calipari with an idea of who you think you might be able to get and then start missing on people. You can't agree on Monday to mutually part ways with John Calipari, not knowing if Jay Wright would even take your phone call, if Scott Drew is going to say yes, if some of these other guys are going to say yes. Listen, we see what's going on at Louisville as we speak. Louisville pushed all their chips on one guy. He chose another job, and I think Louisville's scrambling a little bit. We'll get to them in a minute. And so to me, if I had to guess right now, I think Calipari's back. But I think behind the scenes, Mitch Barnhart is raising money. I think he's setting things up where if he has to pounce in March of 2025, he will be ready to go. Again, I keep using the Jimbo Fisher analogy, but to me, what it kind of reminds me of is the Jimbo Fisher situation where the 5-7 season 2 years ago shocked everybody. But I know for a fact at A&M, they were quietly, once that 5-7 season happened, they said, okay, we're going to make you hire an offensive coordinator, Bobby Petrino, and we're going to give you this year. But the second it started going sideways, remember they lost in week 2 at Texas A&M to Miami. The second it started going sideways, they slowly were working behind the scenes, get their money in order, figure things out. We're going to have to fire this guy and hire a new football coach. And they had months to prepare. My guess is as of right now, I don't feel great about it, but that I was going to say Jimbo Fisher is back. If Jimbo Fisher's the next head coach at Kentucky basketball, that would be a story. My guess is that John Calipari is back next year. He's on very thin ice. And I think next year might be it. I'll tell you what, there's so much to react to. I don't want to spend too much more time on this topic. We can continue this conversation throughout the week because I think we're going to get more information as time goes on. But that's kind of the update on Kentucky. I can't believe we're here. I really didn't think there was even the possibility that he was going to be let go. But now that he is, I guess I'm not surprised.